The trouble started because the police have for a long time now fenced off the green area at the centre of the square. That wasn't opened up on this occasion. It was absolutely clear that if you bring a demonstration, which I think by that stage had swollen to perhaps 30 or 40,000 people, into that square and don't allow it to fan out across the square as previous protests have, you're going to have trouble. And of course the crowd did push down the barriers, and that's when the trouble began.
We've heard a lot tonight, yes, about lack of communication between police and protesters. Just tell us from the perspective of someone who was effectively corralled within that area, how, as a peaceful demonstrator, does that feel to you?
Well, the police are wrong about this, and they know they're wrong about this. I mean, I've been in close communication with Claire Solomon, the president of the University of London Union. She met at Scotland Yard with the police on 3 occasions. They agreed the route, which would go down and through Parliament Square. So it's simply untrue to say that this route wasn't known in advance. And the police should know, and have known in the past, indeed when I've been involved in Stop the War marches in the past, that if you're going to bring a crowd of that size into Parliament Square, you have to use the full size of the square. It's no good trying to jam 20 or 30,000 people just into the road area on one side of the square. That is a recipe for a disaster, and it was a disaster what followed.
Did you see any of the violent element?
Well, I saw people pushing it down. I saw them running across the square. And of course, by the time they got to the other side of the square, where the rest of the fencing was, it was clear that they were going to have to confront the police. And I'm not surprised about this, because you have to have the context here. This was the 4th demonstration in a month. On the previous 2 demonstrations, that isn't the Millbank one, but on the previous 2 demonstrations, students have been kettled for extraordinarily long periods of time, treated with quite a degree of police brutality. So it's no wonder that they entered this demonstration with a completely different mindset than they had did the previous 2.
You study history. You've, as you've studied, I assume, seen cycles of social protest. I mean, do you sense that we are now in a period where we're going to see more protest as part of our society?
Undoubtedly, you have movements like this when there is a profound economic dislocation and when there is a democratic deficit, and we have both these things combined here. You know, it was a Tory, after all, Quinton Hogg, the later Lord Hailsham, who, when the welfare state was introduced, told the then Labour government, give them social reform or they will give you social revolution. Now, I'm not saying we're on the edge of a revolution, but if people try to take away the post-war settlement, if they try to take away the National Health Service and higher education and these things as public services, then they will get a revolt on an absolutely massive scale. And I believe that what we've seen from the students is just the beginning of this process.
OK, we'll leave it on that interesting thought. John Rees, thank you very much indeed.